What it do, fellas? Excuse the mess on the bed. It is what it is. Yeah, if you notice, I'm trying to grow my mustache out. That's why it kind of looks a little weird right here. I wanted to go a little wider on it, so it is what it is. But yeah, man, I'm here to talk about uh, the way girls move, right? And I probably talked about it, covered it a little bit, but we're gonna kind of hone in a little bit more in detail, and we're gonna talk. And I was on Facebook, and there's a particular chick that I used to work with for a few years and whatever, whatever, and she was like a hoe, like I just straight up. She'd have a boyfriend, be fucking other dudes on the side, and then while she's fucking one dude, she's talking about how much she cares for him, but at the same time can't break up with the other dude and all this other whole shit, right? And then fast forward a few years from now, she's married with like a few kids or whatever like that, and it just kind of be funny. 'Cause I was on Facebook, I was like, this bitch was a hoe. Like, and that's not even saying she ain't doing anything, any sly shit now. Like, if she works or whatever, who knows if there's anybody sliding in there, and you know, if she changed her way. Like, she wasn't like she was a church goer or anything. I'm like, I don't know what exactly would, uh, give her this epiphany. But it's funny because the dude that she's with don't know her past like that, right? And if he did, he probably would have been like, you know what? But but then I looked at the dude and looked at the other dudes in the past that she was fucking with, and then he's kind of like a cornball. Like, I mean, he's probably a great father. He has that look of a guy that would be loyal and shit like that. And she kind of hit a buzzer beater. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's like, she got, was getting ran through and whatever, whatever. And then she basically jumped on, and then she found her a dude that didn't want to investigate, didn't want to probably put her through her paces or nothing, and then just wiped her up. Now, um, who knows what's gonna happen? But it's just funny when you have that inside knowledge and you're kind of looking like I'm seeing a whole different perspective from what the dude is seeing. You know what I'm saying? So what I wanted to talk about is when women start circling back to these quote unquote nice guys, good guys, or whatever, right? Um, and I would say in the past, this would be a great um, dating strategy, mating strategy, or whatever you would call it. Like, you would get ran through by the Chads and Tyrones. There'd be some type of hope risk factor in there where a girl's hoping that she actually lock this dude down. She's like, I know a lot of girls want him. I know that he's possibly playing me, but I'm gonna show him that I'm not like these other girls, and I'm gonna try to convince him to like be monogamous or something like that, right? And what she doesn't know is that she's fighting his biology. Like, as a Chad and Tyrone, he's living at the utmost highest male, biology standard that he can. He's at the very least he's simulating procreation with multiple women. That's if he's not like, actually getting them pregnant. He's enjoying the act of. He may not be necessarily getting them pregnant, but if condoms didn't exist, he would be busting nuts in all these chicks and spreading his seed far and wide, which typically is what men's supposed to do. Like, there's a reason why men can keep pumping out seed way into their later years. You're like, all right, from 13 to like, let's say 13 to like 65. That's a lot of years. You would think, like, why would the creator allow us to keep busting nuts until we're 65? Like, you know what I'm saying? But then a woman can only have kids between, let's say, like 13 to 40, right? Like, and that's high risk pregnancy or whatever. Like, why does she stop at 40, but a guy can go and keep busting nuts to 65 plus? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself a question. And what it is that, well, first of all, as we get older, our bodies break down, right? So a woman's body isn't built to start pushing out kids at later age. Whether she becomes her life's at risk or the baby's life at risk. Like hell, back in the day, women would die in childbirth all the time. You know what I'm saying? Whether they were young or old or whatever, women would die in childbirth all the time. And until modern science and technology came along, it was common for a woman to die in childbirth, right? So now we're talking about, oh, she's 40 trying to push out a kid. Whether the kid might have some defects, if the kid even survives, then there's the woman who could have complications with herself, and then she could die. So that tells you right there why you can't keep having kids until you're later. Like your body's just not built. Now, for a guy to be 65 and even some up to like 80 or whatever, but I'm just stopping at 65 just to be reasonable. Like after when a guy's like 70, it's like sex is not really a priority. Like once he's 70, it's just like he's just enjoying his twilight years, probably just fucking with hobbies and shit. But we're just saying like a guy who typically keeps himself in shape, healthy, let's say his shit works still. I would say like 65 is a good, up to 65, I think is a good age. But here's the thing, we don't have to bring anything to term. Our body is just basically it's cloning our DNA. Like our sperm is just like a clone of our DNA, so that when we pass it on to like a woman, she'll take that DNA, replicate. So like if we're old as fuck but we're tall and full head of hair or whatever, right? The DNA is taking, is taking our genetic makeup from our past. Like it's not like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this girl and then he gonna come out like an old wrinkly ass baby. No, he's gonna come out like with my genetic makeup from like my prime. Like our age really isn't that relevant when it comes to, taking our genetic makeup and then putting it into a chick. Like we just have to be erect enough to enact on ejaculation, and then they're just taking our genetic makeup. So there is no real risk factor, like when it comes to us surviving the whole encounter or anything like that. So you can understand, like, man, men can do this up to 65 or however long they can stay erect, right? So that tells you that if we can keep doing it till 65, but let's say we had a partner, let's say it was around the same age as us, because there's that whole politically correct, like we should be dating around people our own age and this and that and other. Okay, well, why am I able to still get hard and ejaculate and push out sperm while my girl can't even do nothing with it? All right, she's 50, 55 years old, we're both 55, but I can still get hard and ejaculate and she can't do nothing with the material. It makes no sense. Why the fuck am I still able to execute mating strategies while she can't? So something should tell you right there from a biological standpoint that men were built to spread their seed far and wide. Ultimately, probably have more than one chick, right? And they would age gap them. So let's say I was 25 and I would probably meet a girl that's 25. Then we would fuck, have kids, whatever. She would grow up into a pretty good mom. Let's say we'll fast forward 20 years, right? The kid's grown. We're now in our 40s, and she can't really have kids no more. I can still get hard and ejaculate. So what I do is I get a new girl. And what I would do is when I think you keep your older wife there, right? She's 40 years old. Guess what would happen? All right, I get another 20-year-old. All right. Obviously, if I'm able to pull extra girls, I have some type of value. Maybe they see my genetics and they say like, oh, I want to have his kid because he's gonna be tall, he's gonna be this, or maybe I got resources or whatever the case may be, right? So I get another wife that's 20, right? And and then so she wants my kids, whatever. All right, so I fuck her. Now we're gonna assume that we're in a relationship though. I'm not saying just go out there and just don't give a fuck about what you're doing. That's how I bring her into the relationship. All right. I have a kid with her. She's pregnant, whatever. Right now, and this will address a lot of issues that are going on today. A lot of young women are having kids too young. They don't know what it means to be a mother. Maybe they have a bad relationship with their mom, and so they don't even talk to their mom no more. So they're kind of just flying by the seat of their pants on this parenting thing, and and there's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of room for fucking it up, right? Well, guess what? I got a I had already vetted my first wife, and she has 20 years experience, right? So when you come in, she's almost like a grandma figure to her kid. Technically, she'd be kind of like a stepmom, but guess what? She will be able to pass down her knowledge of what she did and how she did it to the to the new wife or to the new girl or whatever that's in relationship, and they can co-parent. Really, it's gonna be like a three-way split because I got the resources. The older, my first wife's training the other one and helping her. Let's say she wanted to still pursue some kind of career or some type of like thing, right? Well, I got a 40-plus-year-old first wife that can babysit or whatever. Like she'll have a stake in it, just because of the fact that it's with me, right? So she still cares about me. She gonna care about. She should by default care about the kid I made with this other chick, like and then let's say another 20 years pass. I'm 60 something now, and my shit still works. And then I pick another girl, and I have a kid with them, and it would just be passed on down through the chain. And that's probably how it was supposed to be on a biological level, like the most responsible way you can think about it on a biological level. Instead of just running out and just banging chicks and dipping, I'm talking about, let's say every chick you banged, you actually had to, like, you just brought her in, right? That seems more realistic on how men's dating strategy would be. And then on the same side, like, it would, women wouldn't be left in the dark because they would be brought into a situation where there would be another woman there to help them, like, raise the kid, right? Like, everybody kind of wins, you know what I'm saying? So from a biological standpoint, that seems to be how men would have to do, because there's, like I said, there's no point for us to be busting nuts at 65 if our girl that was at 65 couldn't even get pregnant in the first place, let alone if she tried to bring it to term without killing herself, right? So uh so that's the mating strategy for men. But for females of today, they're trying to like get that Chad or Tyrone to like commit, but he won't commit. She's, like I said, she's doing that hope shit. And what she'll do is, maybe he's dumb enough to get you pregnant, but he won't stay and commit. What you'll do is you'll circle back to a good guy, and really nothing changes even if she doesn't have any kids, because what's going to happen is she won't be able to garnish the type of attention she wants from those same guys. So girls will always adapt. Girls are forced to adapt to going to a crowd where they can get the most amount of like attention. So like it's actually displayed every time you go online or whatever. Like, just go where the men are at, and typically you'll find some females there. Like, you go to male spaces, especially like online or on Twitch or in video game communities and stuff like that, you always see these random little droplets of females, right? And you could say, oh, but maybe they like video games too. I'll say this: they'll try to like video games so that they have some type of credibility, but ultimately what they're there is to pick up and pick off simps that'll follow them wherever they go, because they know that it's not rocket science, it's not a foreign concept, that geek culture stuff that typically wasn't it was kind of frowned upon, at least as far as the intersexual dynamic thing was concerned. Women typically ignored the guys that were into certain activities. They kind of created the landscape as far as like guys doing nerd shit and not like getting laid and stuff. So what they found out how to do is they found out how to take advantage of the same environment that they created. They said, look, I'll circle back to the niggas that like I shunned on and said were like geeks and shit. And what'll happen is that they'll be so thirsty that I had them wrapped around my finger. Now, of course, the women won't have any general attraction to it, because when you think of the adverse, you be like, oh well, you guys always ask like, man, why is this girl staying with this dude, this Chad or whatever, but he doesn't give her no attention, treats her like shit and whatever. Because what happens is she's left still fighting for the guy's validation, which keeps her interested. So it would be to understand that obviously if she's going to a place where she's getting tons of attention, she's going to be feeling the opposite. But so from a interest sexual standpoint, she's not getting what she needs. But from a resource standpoint, she is. She'll compromise her emotional investment for resources, and that's typically what a girl's mating strategy is in her later years. She really loves the Tyrones and Pookies and shit and the Chads, but at the in her twilight years, let's say late 30s, 40s, and this is twilight from a sexual marketplace standpoint, because I would say like biologically, like yo, twilight years would probably be like 50 and up. It'd be like the second half of your life. Um, but what she'll do around her late 30s, 40s, or whatever, she'll circle back to those nerds and geeks and shit. Won't have no attraction for them, but then get resources. So she'll compromise her emotional investment for the resources. Now, that ain't saying that she probably won't cheat or whatever, whatever, and still find the Chad that on a slow Tuesday and he's willing to like dick her down temporarily or whatever, right? But this would be how the dating landscape would be normally, probably from the past all the way up to the present. The difference is the guys that used to fall for this hook, line, and sinker, they're starting to wise up because the age of the internet. Like girls have fucked up their own strategy. It's like girls can't keep a secret. We already know this. Like that's one of the stereotypes. Like girls can't keep a secret, right? Because in their thirst for attention, women are willing to spill the beans on their own mating strategy, fuck up everything, but because the internet gives most women an inflated self of worth, she thinks in the back of her mind that I can do whatever the fuck I want and still win. But what you don't know, and why that would be also is because guys would also vouch for that, because they would because for every bad girl they would see on the street or online or whatever, typically a guy lives by the same kind of hope strategy, especially if he's in scarcity mindset. He'll just say, oh, that's not all women. And he'll just say that that's just a bad apple out of the bunch. But what the internet has started to been able to do as the years have gone on and the internet has become more prevalent in everybody's day-to-day life, more and more girls are coming out saying this bullshit. And what's happening is guys can't say not all women, not all women. Now it's starting to turn into most women. It used to be not all women, but now guys are starting to see it as, damn, man, most women are starting to act like this. And what it does is it fucks up the hope strategy for men naturally. Because a guy could have told them this shit and they would have said, man, not all women, and you just pick bad ones or whatever. And maybe he's jealous of the guy, or maybe he thinks the guy is trying to take the girls for himself, or whatever rationale that he's trying to come up with to disbelieve, to break the like fantasy of what guys typically used to think girls were. We would put up that defense. But when it comes from the horse's mouth, you can't put up a defense. When you say when you used to say not all women, but every time you turn on a TikTok or some YouTube channel, girls are shitting on men and talk about how they're gonna let's teach you how to finesse a man and use a nigga and all this other stuff like that. Men are being forced a red pill, like men are choking on the red pill at this point, right? And when that starts to happen, you're gonna start seeing a decline in relationships. The mating strategy where a woman would wait till her later years and circle back, I think you'll see a real big influx of marriageless and relationshipless women, because women typically don't see the forest before the trees. They're gonna say that, oh, that ain't gonna happen to me, blah blah blah. They ain't gonna have no plan. And what's gonna happen is when they thought, hell, and don't bring any kids into it. It's just gonna really fuck your chances up. But when they thought like, oh, I'm gonna circle back, and then I'm gonna get that guy that always had a thing for me. When that guy has been getting a daily dose of red pill without even wanting it, not searching for the places, not looking for the manosphere, his everyday to day life is shown, like, because women can't fucking shut up, use the plausible deniability that they used to have for all these years, to have this anonymity to where they could play the angels and do the shit in the dark, because they have to tell on themselves, because their own emotional fuckery is telling them that they gotta expose themselves because they love attention. So like their love for attention is what fucks them up in the long run. Men are just like, I can't fuck with you. Like I've been able to peek behind the curtain. I know how the magic trick works now. I used to I would have thought that you were this angel, this chick that was a good girl who always prioritized relationships and didn't run around riding a cot carousel and fucking your pair bonding up into where you got the dead eyes and you're just looking at me as a bag at the end. Like, I would have never thought that was possible, but now we see it. So now as men, we gotta go through an even harsher vetting process if we want to even stay in the game, which it's easier just to kind of just say fuck it. So a lot of girls, and see, like I said, and girls won't realize this. For like, I could tell a girl like, hey, this is kind of like what's been going on. Like, you might want to. Every girl's gonna have the same mentality. That ain't gonna be me. That ain't gonna be. I'm gonna still move in that same direction, but I'm gonna get a different outcome because it's too easy to move in that direction. There's the most upfront benefits by moving in that direction. So they're gonna, humans in general will always move the path of least resistance. So instead of hunkering down, finding a guy in her best years and going to work and putting that work in a relationship and try to make it last long term and have a family and build something. Because what happens if she actually prioritized that up front, she would look at all the other girls out there twerking and having all these parties and shit, and she wouldn't be able to contain herself because she'd be like, man, I'm missing out. I'm having this fear of missing out. And it would just seem very hard for her to do that, to stay in a long-term relationship, to build something, to have kids, to build a legacy in her early years. Something in her mind is telling her, don't do it. So she's gonna go to path of least resistance. Hey, it's just easier just to go out there and just fuck around and just, and then hell, I'll be able to find a man because men are so thirsty in this and that. I'll just be able to pick a man off the tree, whether he's high value or not. Typically, I'll just find a guy that has money. He might not look the best, but blah blah blah. Well, here's the thing. That used to probably work back in the day when men didn't know what the fuck was going on. But y'all keep telling yourselves online. Y'all keep exposing yourselves. Y'all keep fucking up y'all strategy. Men have stayed the same for years. The Chad and Tyrones always got their pick of the litter early. And then most men were just average guys that would stick by a girl. Obviously, there's guys out there that have their own mental conditions and maybe whatever. But that would be up to the female to like, men and women will put each other through tests to make sure that we're compatible for the long run. That's typically, if we actually value wholesome qualities, typically the matchmaking process would just figure itself out, right? But we've gotten to such a superficial, like, social media type outlook on everything and what you can do for me and trying to stay lit and shit and all that stuff, that we're prioritizing bullshit qualities that won't be conducive to long-term relationships. So, but guys typically, not the non-chads, the average guy typically will prioritize, basic shit. Like, okay, is she nice? Is she cool? Is she feminine? Is she, if I had kids with her, does she even have motherly qualities? Like, she ain't ratcheting on the street. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we already inherently kind of pick, like, because we look at girls from a logical, outside the looks part. As soon as we get past the looks, everything else we want about a woman typically is logical. Like, because we're looking like, can I tolerate this chick? If I mean, I've had conversations with her. She seems like she has a good head on her shoulders. She doesn't seem like she's gonna annoy the fuck out of me or whatever. Um, does she do this? Does she do that? Right? Really, a guy, like, to put it in like one word, appreciation. If she moves and acts like she appreciates me and shit, like, boom, it's already a done deal. Like, let's say she's not playing a long game like finesse strategy where her game is better than mine, to where she just, her acting is on point to where she just gets me down the aisle and then finesses me at the end. Let's say that's not what she's trying to do. But boom, we're looking at it from a logical standpoint. Now, when a girl looks at it, she looks at it from just straight materialistic, emotional, whatever, whatever. He treats me like shit, but blah, blah. But she's still prioritizing that dude for a long-term relationship until she's getting hit over the head so many times to where she's forced to look in the other direction. But guess what? When she's forced to look in the other direction, she's been so mentally drained and fucked that, yeah, she's looking in the right direction, but she can't be attached. And guys are looking at her, because especially with the way they talk about themselves and shit online, what men are starting to understand that these are bad bets. We don't even have to like run into red pill spaces and learn game and shit. Like, just all a guy gotta do is sit and watch y'all long enough and y'all expose yourselves. So as far as the dating strategy between men and women have exposed their hand and fucked it up. And it sucks. Y'all fucked it up. I mean, it's good and bad, because most now men are being wise up to the to the game, but it's fucked up because like relationships that in general are just screwed. And there might be guys that might run into a good girl, but because they see how much bad it is, like I said, humans moving the path of least resistance, it's just better off just not even to take that chance, because most of the time men have a lot to lose. So it is what it is. That's the game. It's fucked up, but hey, keep exposing yourselves. I mean, like, guys ain't gonna have to find red pill manosphere spaces and shit, because the world's gonna be turning red pill pretty soon. Especially when girls are gonna be, every girl got OnlyFans now, or they're gonna legalize prostitution. I'm like, the world is now red pill. We now see that most girls want to fucking strip and fucking well, I'm not even saying they want to do it, but they'll resort to it through lack of morals and values and shit, and it'll actually be an option for them. Like, it'll be a legitimate option. Like, if doing sex work is an actual option for a female, you already know she's bad. She's bad for a relationship, because if she's with you, let's say she wants something, and then let's say you just don't think it's a good idea that she has it. If fucking for money or resources was ever an option for her, she might step out, fuck somebody to get. Maybe she still sees you as a still long term good bet as far as overall long term survival. But if she wants something bad enough and she has to fuck to get it, it's on the table. So like I said, crazy shit. Take it or leave it. It is what it is. But it's your boy Logic signing out. The game has been exposed. Holla at your boy.